guy's got some emotional baggage. He ain't not ready for a relationship yet. But this is a romantic film, so obviously we have to be ready by the end of the film. Hello, Watchaholics. Welcome back. Today we are going to be recapping, reviewing, talking about all things falling for Christmas. So, guys, I decided that for the month of December, I'm going to be covering basically all of the new romantic films, comedies that are going to be coming out on Netflix and Amazon Prime. And I thought it would be wonderful to start off with Falling for Christmas. Now, this movie stars Lindsay Lohan back after, like, I don't know, like 15 years of acting, maybe? Even more than that? I'm not even sure. Like, the last movie I remember her in was Freaky Friday. Hey, Watchaholics, editing Melody here. So I don't know how I could forget this, but I totally forgot to mention that she was in Mean Girls. You know that hit? Yeah, I totally forgot that. So I apologize for forgetting that. Shame on me. Okay, back to the video. That was a long time ago. And then I kind of watched her in, she had a reality show on MTV where she had like this like lounge bar restaurant in Greece. And she would have like, basically she would like, it was like a reality show. Different hostesses and people who do bar service would come and like audition to be like on her, like to be part of her team. And like they would like do like different like tests and things like that. It was absolutely ridiculous. I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched like a little bit of it. But in this film, she's looking happy and healthy and back at it, and I am so happy for her. The movie also stars a Glee star, Chord, Overstreet, I think his name is. They are both in this film, so let's just get into it. So let's do a recap first, and then I will give my overall thoughts. Are you ready? Okay, let's do it. The movie basically starts off, and it's like a montage of like basically this very expensive ski lodge, which is where Miss Lindsay Lohan's character lives. I don't think she lives there. Does she live there? I don't even remember. She's from there or whatever. Her dad owns this like really expensive ski lodge, and she's there. And basically, you know, she's talking on the phone. Who at first I didn't know who she was talking to. I thought this guy was like her assistant. Turns out it's like her boyfriend. More on him later. But basically she's just telling him like, oh, my dad wants me to go into the hotel business, and he like wants me to give him an answer. He's creating like this whole role for me, but I know it's not like an actual real role. It's just for me, and like I don't really know if I want to do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well then obviously we already know where this is gonna go, because clearly she wants a different kind of life. She does say she doesn't want to be known as just like this rich heiress. Like she wants to be known for more, and not just people like to know her just because of her name. But yeah, so she's basically, everyone comes into the house. They're like all these like assistants and hair people and people and managers from the hotels come into the room, and she's on the phone the whole time while they're doing her nails. They're feeding her like literally feeding her champagne, and just like on her hand and foot, doing everything that she wants. But basically we do get introduced to her dad, and her dad is on the on the slopes basically. And this is also where we meet Chord Overstreet, who is basically this guy who has his name is Jake, and he has a small lodge basically down the hill, and he wants to try to keep it open, and he needs like investors to invest in this property because it does keep the locals around, and it also feeds people who are going up to this more expensive ski lodge. So they go, and then like they do this, like he's like talking to the dad, and then dad's like, all right, well, I'll talk to you if like, you know, if you can beat me down the mountain. And then they're just like whole like montage of them skating down, which is obviously not any of them actually doing any skiing here. I always love seeing the stunt doubles just do their thing, do the thing, you know? So they get to the bottom. Basically, Jake lets him win. But at the end of it all, the dad does decide that he just cannot invest at this time into the property. But yeah, so it's really funny. You find out, so like this guy that Lindsay was talking to on the phone is actually like a very like influencer type guy, and the dad is just like not into him. Like they all go out, like they can go out like to lunch or something, and the dad's just like, what in the actual hell? Like the guy's just like doing selfies, and like this character is just way over the top for me. We'll talk about it in my review, but I was like, a little bit too much. But anyway, we do fast forward to basically Jake goes back to the lodge, and you find out that he is a single father, and he has his daughter and I guess his mother-in-law, her grandma. They all live on property at this lodge. And it's a beautiful lodge. The whole time I was watching this film, I was like, can I go to this lodge? Like, I would really, really like it. It seems like a really good time. I really, really wanted to go to that lodge. Just saying, it was so cozy and so like Christmas filled, and I loved it. I would rather stay at some place like that than like some high like place that's very like modern looking. Like, it was so cozy. This basically, I felt like this lodge was a character of itself. But anyway, we do meet his daughter, and the whole time I'm like, oh my god, this daughter, where is she from? She is so damn cute. She kind of reminds me of me when I was little, like the same kind of curly hair, like such a cute little button. Oh my god, I love her. And I'm watching, like, where is she from? Where is she from? She plays Anthony Ramos's daughter in The Heights, which, if you haven't seen, musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda, go and watch it. It's a really fun film, very colorful, beautiful. Oh my god. Yes, Latinos. Yes, it's life. I love that film.
Incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular.
Anyway, back to Falling for Christmas, though. Lindsay Lohan's character, who her name is Sierra, but she kind of changes her name when she, spoiler alert, she loses her memory. She goes by a different name. So we'll just call her Sierra for now. But Sierra, basically, her and, what is her boyfriend's name? What is his name? That shows how much I really care. I don't remember his name. Anyway, her and the boyfriend, they go and he's like, oh, I'm going to take you out to this really special place. Let's go out together. And she's like in the car wanting to like sing Christmas songs. And he's just like, no, we're not doing that. We know that's going to come into play at a different time, obviously, because we can tell that she likes to sing Christmas songs. And she was making a big emphasis on that. I'm like, okay, this is going to come full circle at some point. So anyway, they're at the mountain and this guy proposes to her. Tad, that's his name. Tad. Found it. I found it in my notes. Tad proposes to her, and he gives her this huge, ginormous, ridiculous ring that doesn't even look real. It's like the budget on that ring did not look very good. It's like meant to be like very like, oh my god, such a big diamond, but it just looks so fake. I did not like it. But she's just like, it's so big, and he's just like, oh honey, we'll get it altered. Also, Tad is very like playing a very queer character where like there were a lot of different instances in this film where I was like, is he gay? I'm confused, but I'm like, maybe he's bisexual. I don't know, but he was queer. That's the only thing I could tell from what was happening on screen. She ends up falling off this mountain, and so does he, but they fall on like different sides of the mountain. She falls, she hits her head on a tree. And then you have basically Jake is doing like a round of like a horse sleigh ride, and he's singing with the couple behind him, and then he notices Sierra on the floor like by a tree, and he's like, oh my god, what's going on? So he runs over there and he's like, oh my god. And then fast forward, she's at the hospital. We find out she doesn't remember anything from before the fall. She has no memory right now as to who she is. And at first they kind of want to leave her in the hospital, and then Jake's just like, oh, like you could stay with me. And she's like, oh, I don't know who you are, I don't want to stay with you. And then like they bring in the hospital food, and then she's like, oh, like she noticed, like she's like, well, I guess I should go to the lodge. So she ends up going to stay at the lodge with Jake and his family. And also a big catalyst of that is that they say like, well, maybe if she starts doing like regular activities, her memory will come back. And he's like, okay, well, she can stay here. So that's another reason why she decides to go. So she goes, and it's all like, oh, magical. It's like, again, the lodge. Its own story. The VIP of this whole movie to me was the lodge. I love the lodge. There is a Christmas tree in her damn lodge. It is so Christmas decorated, like it doesn't look real. It looks like somebody's home, not a lodge. Obviously, I'm pretty sure places like this don't really exist, but I digress. So everything in the lodge is like basically falling apart. They need more hands, but they can't hire people because they are losing money. Not a lot of people are staying at the lodge anymore, and that's why Jake needed her dad to like invest, and they just need more help. So then they realize they're like, oh, we need extra help. Oh, we'll have Sierra help us. So they basically give her like things to do like cleaning wise. Obviously, she's never had to clean in her whole life, so she doesn't know how to do anything. Like, know how to make a bed, she doesn't know how to do her laundry, she doesn't know how to clean the toilet. They have, like, a whole montage, basically, of her just doing everything bad. And I will say, it was actually pretty hilarious. Like, there's this one part where she's, like, making the bed, and she's literally having a fight with the sheets. Classic. beautifully done scene. I think the montage was really good. It really showed off like the physical comedy for Lindsay Lohan. I really, really enjoyed it, especially the like hiding of the sheets. I thought that was genius. I loved it. But then okay, so there's also this like Santa Claus character that kind of like roams around and it like talks to like Jake's daughter and like talks to them all, and it's just like, okay, clearly this is meant to be like a Santa Claus because you have the daughter and the grandma out, and they make like at a Christmas tree, like a Christmas like market or whatever, and she like makes a wish. This is backtracking, by the way. This is backtrack. She makes a wish, and then the Santa Claus is there, and he's just like, ooh. I'm like, oh, okay, so this guy's supposed to be Santa Claus. Basically, he makes her wish come true, which we later find out what later we do find out what the wish was. But yeah, clearly it's like a Santa Claus character, like granting wishes and stuff, but not really said. But I mean, you see the guy, you're like, okay, well, clearly he's supposed to be like Santa Claus. Anyway, enough about Santa. So then basically we just have like Tad is like, finds like this guy in the middle of the woods who has like a little cabin, and like they're just going on their own little adventure while he like tries to like find land and find service. It's not really important, and every single time it went back to that, I just was like, can we go back to the lodge? I really don't care about Tad, not even this much. So anytime it went back to Tad, I was like, why? Let's go back to like the important people. So basically, like, time passes. She learns how to flip her pancakes. She learns how to make her bed. She's connecting with Jake and the family. They ski together. She learns to ski, and like you can see that they're starting to like have feelings for each other and like fall in love, I guess you could say. But more on that later in my review. But you know, like what they're trying to show is that she is connecting with the family and slowly falling in love with Jake. And Jake is falling in love with her. Which also forgot to mention, her name is now Sarah. Because she's just like, I don't know, that sounds like something I'd like, which is close to Sierra. So it worked out. So everyone calls her Sarah at this point. What happens next is the grandma and Sarah have a conversation, you know, where she has like this book open and it's like all memories of the state and blah, 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 blah. And the grandma tells Sarah, oh, by the way, the lodge might be closing. Like, we just can't afford to stay open anymore. And she was like, wait, I have an idea. I think of something like that we could possibly do. She finds this doll in Jake's desk, which was originally talked about. He's like, oh my God, like, why are you holding my doll? Honestly, I thought this was going to be a little bit more stereotypical for a romantic movie. I thought he was going to find her with the doll, and then he was going to get mad at her and walk out. Like, what are you doing? Don't touch that doll. It's really important to me. Because you could see in a earlier scene, he has this doll in in one of his drawers at his desk, and he's kind of looking at it, and there's clearly something with the doll. Kind of creepy, but whatever. He has it like hidden. But actually, the scene does not go like that. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll put it away. And then he's like, no, it's okay. He's like, it belonged to my wife. We bought it the first year that we like had the lodge, and we usually put it up every year for Christmas. But it's like a doll / angel, I think, or something like that. And then she's just like, I haven't been able to put it up this year. Basically, he's just hasn't let go is the real thing. Like, what's going on here is that he's like, hasn't let go really of his wife and the fact that she did pass away. But yeah, so he's just like, oh, well, I'm going to a toy drive, and she's like, oh, I'd really like to help. And then so she goes to the toy drive with him, and she basically finds out from like everyone in the neighborhood there that like he's a really good guy and he deserves so much and all this stuff. So she gets an idea of what they can do to help the lodge. So she decides that they're going to do a fundraiser to save the lodge, and she talks to Jake about it. But Jake is like, no, I don't want to do that. He just gets really upset about the idea of asking people for money to keep this place open. And he's just like, I rather honestly would be better if they sold the place. And she's like, oh my God, like, how can you say that? And he's just like, you know, I'm scared. You know, I have a lot of memories here, and I'm scared to make new memories in this place because it's also a new memory that he's making, because this is the first time he's starting to feel things that he hasn't felt in a really long time. And he's basically telling her, like, I have feelings for you, and I wasn't expecting this. He hasn't had these feelings since his wife died, and he is just scared to let go. And he leaves, and she's just like, Sarah's like, oh man, like, okay, well, shit. Guy's got some emotional baggage. He ain't not ready for a relationship yet. But this is a romantic film, so obviously we have to be ready by the end of the film. Eventually, it just kind of says, like, okay, fine, like, let's do it. They go into this... Guys. It's because it's Christmas. We have to talk about mistletoe, right? Obviously. So there's mistletoe up on the thing, and they kind of look at it, and they're like, they're talking, and then they like look at each other, and they're like, oh, mistletoe, ha ha ha. And then like they kind of like lean in to like go kiss, and then he's just like, wait, maybe we shouldn't do this because you might have someone back home. And she's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, yeah, she has Tad, who clearly is not an actual match for her, so whatever. But they don't kiss, obviously, because they can't just kiss. They gotta make us like wait till the end of the movie for that. Oh wait, actually, it's the opposite way around. I'm sorry. I messed that up. Actually, what happens first, the mistletoe scene happens first. And then the whole fundraiser situation happens where he's like, I'm scared to let go. It's been a while since my wife died and I have these feelings. Blah, 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 blah. Then after that, because Sarah's just like, oh man, like I'm creating a lot of issues here for this guy. Maybe I should leave. So she comes back into the house and she tells the grandma and the daughter, like, I think I'm going to leave. It's time for me to leave. And then Jake comes in basically after thinking about it, and it was just like, no, like I still want you here and I want you to help us with the fundraiser. So he's like, and I also think that it's time for you to help me put this up. And it's basically the doll / angel. So I think it's his way of kind of saying like, I am gonna let go, like it's time for me to let go. So they start the fundraiser. It's all magic. And aside from that, then we go back to the expensive ski lodge where her dad has returned. Her dad had gone away for like a couple of days, which is why no one realized that she was missing. Or people realized she was missing, but they thought that she was like out with Tad because she had said like, don't bother us, we're going out. Like we want privacy. And then she just didn't come back, and people were just like, oh, she's must be out. Like maybe they went away. So no one like really knowed. But obviously the dad comes and he's just like, what the hell, where's my daughter? And then he goes to her room and all her luggage is there. And he's like, there's no way my daughter would go anywhere without her luggage. Valid. Like, how did no one know that? How did no one check that? I thought that was ridiculous, but it's a movie. And it's a cheesy film on top of that. So it's not like we're trying to be realistic here. Am I right? Yeah. So, basically, like I said, he realizes his daughter is missing. So he heads to the sheriff's office, which the sheriff in the couple of, when they first found her, the sheriff was like, oh, it's like, go stay there. So the sheriff knew as soon as like basically the dad was there, like, oh, we know who you're looking for. Like, I know where she is. Let's go. So Sarah's like getting ready for the party, and she comes down, and she has, guys, she's all that moment. She comes down the freaking stairs in a red dress looking fine. I mean, her boobs looked, may I say, looked nice. But she comes down and everyone is just like, oh my God, you look so beautiful. And Jake is like, oh my God. Like, it's just having a Freddie Prinze Jr. moment. It's so hilarious. Like, they clearly stole that from She's All That. Like, they just needed to play Kiss Me and it would have been the same scene. But, other than the fact she didn't really come down in slow motion. But, it's basically where they stole that from. So, they're in the, like, people are, like, haven't showed up to the party yet. So, they're kind of, like, waiting around. And he was like, hey, do you want to dance? So, they're slow dancing in, like, the living room. Just them. It's super sweet. And then people start to show up. And they're like, oh, Jake, can you give a speech? So Jake just starts to give a speech, and he's a little bit nervous, and you could just see like Sarah's like really like, you can do this, like it's okay, like just being his support system in that moment. It's really nice. And then basically he's like, I don't know what to say, like this is, I do want to talk about the fact that like, this lodge might not be able to we might have to close our lodge. And then that's when everybody who's at the party starts to like put up their hand and be like, hey, I remember that time. For example, there's a couple like, I remember that time we just had our wedding and we couldn't have our honeymoon and you let us stay here for free for a whole week. So they're like, so here I feel like we should pay you back for that. Gives them money. Then this other guy's like, oh, I remember my son needed ski lessons and he couldn't afford it and you just gave it to him for cheap. Here's the money. And everyone just starts like basically bringing up moments where Jake really helps them and how it's their time to pay him back for everything that he's done for them. The mayor's there. The mayor's like, you know, I've talked to the people on the board and we've decided to put in a proposition to make this lodge a historical site, because basically this lodge has been here for generations. It's been passed on in this family. So they're deciding to make this a historic site. So Jake can't believe it. And Jake just says, you know, I want to thank one person here because without her, none of this would have been possible. I really want to thank Sarah. And then literally in that moment, the dad and Tad come in and they're like, sweetie, oh my God. And she's just like, who the fuck are you? Like, she's like not really remembering who they are. And then they slowly start talking and like little moments start to, this would never happen, guys, but like little things start popping up in her mind and she starts to remember who she is in that moment. And then Jake realizes like, oh my God, wait, you're her daughter? You're his daughter? Like, and then he's like, I'm sorry, like, I didn't know who you were. There's this very dramatic departure, and there's like this whole montage that they show with like places like all the times that she was with Jake, and like it was like actually they had this beautiful song playing in the background. I was in it. I was like, okay. The cheese, the romanticness, it's bringing me in, and I love it. And it was so dramatic, and I loved every second of it. The dramatics of it all, I loved it. You know, she wakes up the next morning in, like, now being where she is, in the expensive ski hotel. She wakes up, and she makes her bed. She decides to go and make breakfast downstairs with the cooks. She makes bacon. She's like, I want my own thing. And everybody's like, what the hell is going on? Like, what are you doing? And then they're like, oh, we have this really nice outfit for you. And she's like, no. She's like, I don't want to wear any of that. I actually want to go with something more simple. And yeah, because they're going to have a conference basically where they're going to, you know, talk about their engagement and things like that. And she's like, oh, I just want to wear simple clothes. So then they go to the conference, and basically the guy, like, she's at the conference and she's literally wearing like jeans and a sweater, like so simple, like back to like how she really enjoyed her life while being at the lodge. It was great. Full circle moment compared to the beginning where she's wearing like this like super duper decked out branded outfit and super over the top. Compared to this, it's like clearly she has grown as a person. But while the conference is going on, Jake and his family are watching it, and, you know, he's just like, oh, let's just turn this off. Like, because, you know, he's hurt. He's just like, oh my God, like, I really liked this girl. And then he talks to his daughter, and the daughter's like, oh, but have you told her that that you're falling in love with her? Like, have you told her? And he's just like, well, no. And then she's like, Dad, like, you have to tell her how you feel. So he decides to go and tell Sierra, not Sarah, how he feels about her. So he goes to the hotel, and while that's going on, Sierra meets up with her dad and basically tells him that she does not want to take the job anymore. She doesn't want to be in the hotel business, and she kind of wants to find her own way. And the dad's like, of course, I understand. And he was very loving and supportive of it. And then also at the same time, the lodge, because Sierra on the conference was talking about the lodge, basically is now booked. Everyone's just been calling. The grandma's on the phone, and she's like, hello, thanks for calling. And then she's like, hello, thanks for calling. And then the phone just starts blowing up. She calls Jake, and she's like, hey, we're like fully sold out for next Christmas. So huge ordeal, huge crazy stuff. Happy, yay, 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 happy ending for the lodge. Sierra then meets up with Tad and breaks off the engagement. And then there's just like this really interesting moment where Tad and basically the guy who was like managing before, who was managing the hotel and like taking care of Sierra, I guess they kind of get together. It was just like this whole film, I was just like, why is he even dating Sierra? Clearly not straight. But he ends up basically being like, oh, hey. So him and the hotel guy. Then we finally make it to the scene where Jake finally finds Sierra at the hotel and tells her how he feels. And guys, it cannot be any more awkward. I have to say this was, I mean, it was awkward and also hilarious. Like, it was the most hilarious kissing scene I'd ever seen. He brings out the mistletoe and he says, oh my god, like I can't remember. I hit my head, like kind of like making fun of the situation that happened with her not remembering. Like, oh, I can't remember what you do with the mistletoe. And then she's like, oh, I can help you with that. And she throws the mistletoe and they kiss. And guys, what a kiss. Can I tell you about this kiss? Because it was not good. I literally could not stop thinking about how funny the kiss was because it just looked extremely awkward and you could just tell that there was like no motion in this kiss. It almost felt like you were watching Hannah Montana having her first kiss on screen and you kind of just like, yay, we're just gonna touch faces. That's basically what happened. There was like no like passion or some sort of movement. It was literally just like, and then there's like different angles, but it just looked really awkward and it was funny. I laughed at the kiss. I was never like, oh my god, what a kiss. Like, man, like I felt it. This was no Bridgerton situation. This was very like, this is a kiss that we're doing on stage and we're gonna touch lips for about 30 seconds and then we're separating. That's literally what it looked like. The grandma, the daughter, the dad all show up. They're there and then, yay. End of movie. And that is your recap of Falling for Christmas. Guys, okay, let's get into the review portion of this film. Okay, review time. Overall, my thoughts of this film. It wasn't bad. I didn't think this movie was bad, but it also wasn't, like, amazing. Like, I don't think this is a movie, a romantic Christmas film that I'd be like, ooh, gotta watch that again. But, I mean, like, this is a Netflix film. I'm not expecting great stuff. It's kind of like when you watch Hallmark movies. You're not expecting it to be like the best acting, the best storyline, because everything is going to be kind of the same every time. It's a very stereotypical type of movie. And one of the main points I want to highlight is about the leads not having any chemistry in this. And I think that was the fault of it for me. What brought down the score for it for me was I didn't feel like Lindsay Lohan and Chord Overstreet had any chemistry whatsoever. Like, they looked good on screen together. They were very pretty to look at, but I never felt any chemistry. Because for me, when I like romantic films, the romantic genre, to me, it's like that longing, that like, oh my god, I want them to kiss. Why aren't they kissing? Like, just kiss her already. Like, I never felt like that this entire film. I felt like it was just very like forced. Like, no, these people are supposed to be together, so they will be. Even though the actors themselves, I didn't feel that kind of like chemistry, and that brought it down for me because I think with romantic films and shows and anything like that, like chemistry is very, very important. And if I'm never like, ooh, look at the way he looks at her, like when they were in that mistletoe scene, the first mistletoe scene, I feel like in that moment I should have been like, oh my god, are they gonna kiss? Oh my god, kissed her. I never felt like that, and I think it's because like they didn't make me believe that at that point that they had liked each other. I would have liked to see much more of like those glances, those like you look at each other, they look at me, and you're like, and you look away, you know, like, oh, like that's what brings you in. And I feel like they didn't do that enough. So it kind of like, like really took me out of it. You know, but all in all, though, it was awesome to see Lindsay Lohan back. I mean, like I said, in the beginning of this film, like in the beginning of this video, she hasn't been in a movie in like over 15 years, I think. So like she looked great in this film. I'm very happy that she's getting back into acting. I mean, I don't know, she's gonna be doing like lots of stuff, but like this was a great film for her to come back to, and I was like really happy to see her on screen again because I always liked her as an actress. I thought she was really fun. You know, Parent Trap is a classic, Freaky Friday, these are classic films that she was in, and I really enjoyed her in those films. I know she was in like a lot more stuff, but like those are like, to me, like pinnacle stuff for her. Okay, I want to talk about the Tad character, the fiance. I could not stand this character, not even a little bit. There was not one moment I ever believed he actually cared about marrying her. There's not one time I ever cared about the character. If he would have fallen and died when they fell from the mountain, I would have been like, okay, great, we're moving on. Anytime he was on the screen, I his scenes, to me, I was bored. I was like, please, let's get back to Lindsay Lohan. I just don't care about you enough. And I kind of hated like the acting as well. Like I don't know. I just felt like he was too charactery for this kind of film. Like it was just like he felt too much in comparison to everyone else. He felt really out of place in this kind of film. And I know he's supposed to be like this over the top like influencer. Acting to me just wasn't good enough. Not that anyone else's acting was superb, but I just didn't like his character, and the way the actor portrayed it I just wasn't a fan. So yeah. So all in all, guys, if you're looking for a fun Christmas movie to just like watch with your hubby, your partner, you can throw this on and have a good old time. Is it bring up the cheese? Absolutely. But all in all, I'm going to give this film 3 mistletoes out of 5. 3 out of 5 mistletoes for Falling for Christmas. So my Watchaholics, have you watched Falling for Christmas? If you have, comment down below. Let me know what you rated it out of 5 mistletoes. Please comment that down below. Please, please, please. I will see you guys in the next video. Remember, I'm going to be covering all this month romantic comedies, films that are coming out on Netflix and also on Amazon Prime. I cannot wait to cover it because I love the romantic genre. It is my thing. I love it all. But guys, if you're new here, please, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, and also please consider subscribing. It'll be a really good time and it really helps me out. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.